So how did you become a non-feminist woman?
Yeah, so growing up in Russia, I thought that feminism was a positive thing. So feminism was about a bunch of brave women who decided to fight for other women and make sure that we have rights to vote, we have rights to go to college. And I had a very positive idea of what feminism is. So basically, I thought that feminism is what it was during the first wave and part of the second wave of feminism.
Mhm.
And then I came to America, and in school, I was still like a teenager. I didn't think too much about it. But then I went to college, and I got exposed to a lot of the feminist ideas. Some of my professors were feminists, and I started noticing that something was seriously off here, like seriously off. I started noticing that they express ideas that I consider to be harmful, and and I just noticed that they were straight up lying about women and what women are, and that started my exit from feminism, really. Because before that, I thought that it was a good thing, and I sort of identified myself with the movement.
Which
But I just
ideas do you think are harmful? Which ideas specifically?
Number one, they say that women are weak and women are fragile. Women are, in this really dangerous world, and there's so much violence against women specifically. And this is something that I didn't like because I don't want to be looked at as weak. I don't need any special protection. And if you look at statistics, men are much more likely to be victims of violence,
Mhm.
not women.
Mhm.
Yeah, and another thing is in terms of promiscuity, like this is something that really shocked me. Somehow, modern day feminists think that there's something empowering about promiscuity and casual sex and sleeping around. It's like as opposed to starting a family. And I couldn't understand how that works and how anyone can argue for that. Because, I mean, to me, it was obvious that it's something that benefits men, right? Like men benefit from having all these bodies of women available to sleep with, and women benefit more from having more and more stable relationships. Women need security, like in their relationships. Women are prone to desire like long-term relationships,
Mhm.
and I saw that women were being lied to, basically.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I know in modern times a lot of people will go crazy over what you just said, but you know the point of these videos is to express views of the women who are against feminism. So we want to hear your views. So,
Yeah,
uh,
you agree with me? What do you
well,
think?
I think I can't speak for all women, but I do believe that for sure there are sections of society, both men and women, who definitely need stability and who require stable monogamous relationships. And I, in particular, come from a culture. I come from many different places and different cultures, but one of the places that I come from, let's say, in the Caribbean, it we have a culture that where it's very difficult to develop normal, long-term, stable, monogamous relationships, and I think that has come about because of the rift between men and women, which was caused by things like feminism and stuff. It wouldn't have been called feminism, but versions of feminism. And I think that for people who prefer just normal monogamous relationships, and there are many, both men and women, it is difficult for them in societies where the relationship between man and woman is destroyed, and I think that's not a healthy thing. So basically, I do think that feminist women and some men are definitely going to, they want promiscuity and they will benefit from such a society, and that's what they want, and that's okay. But there are other portions of society, like you and I, for example, who don't want that. I have no interest in promiscuity. I'd have no interest in a society where people are sleeping around. I don't think that would be beneficial for me, or in your case for you. There are many of us who just are more conservative and we want to live a more conservative life, and I think society has to also make room for that. And feminism, in trying to smash the patriarchy and all of this, or try to break down these old traditional rules that disturb them, they forget that there are people who find it useful. And I think basically people have to learn to share. Okay, it's true that they don't like that system, fine. we do, and we exist, and we want the chance to have, monogamy, to have stable relationships, to not have to move from person to person because no one wants a relationship anymore. I think it's already become quite difficult, the dating world. And I'm not a young person, so I'm not dating, but from what I can see and what I know from the cultures that I come from, it's difficult to try to date in a world where people don't have monogamy as a goal, where most people don't even want that, you know?
Yeah, and it affects families and it affects birth rates. And one of the lies that they're telling us is that men and women are the same when it comes to dating, right? And that's simply not true.
Yeah.
Women have hormones that are released when we have sex, and that causes us to become attached to the man. Men don't have that. Men are more likely to engage in promiscuity if they have access to all these women, and women are more likely to seek protection and to seek secure long-term relationships because we get pregnant and we have children. So, we want that man to be there for us.
I don't know enough about the science of it to say what hormones we have and stuff, and I know a lot of people would argue that men also want the same thing. I don't know how many people want it, or how many men, or how many women, but I know I personally am somebody who, if I need a connection, I need stability, I just need a relationship to, so but I would say in terms of men, I feel like my husband is like that as well. So again, my sample size is very, very small, but I think some men are like that as well. So I don't know. I wouldn't judge. I do agree that feminists like to say that men and women are the same, and this is nonsense. Of course, men and women are not the same. It's a nonsensical theory. We are different, so different. Yes, in many ways we are the same in that at a base level we're all just human. We have many of the same instincts. We can do what each other can do. I understand that they don't like the things of saying this one is more nurturing and this one is smart and this one is this. Okay, all those things we are the same. But at the end of the day, there are differences between men and women in general. Maybe they're not huge differences. Maybe they don't exist for every man or every woman, but there are some general things, right? And I don't know exactly what those are, or I don't think it even makes sense to get into it's this or it's that. I just think, yeah, men and women aren't necessarily the same, and that makes sense to me from just makes sense because we've had different roles for for thousands of years as we evolved. So it makes sense that we look different. Therefore, it makes sense that we would have some different traits. To me, this makes sense, and yeah, it is weird that they think we are the same.
Yeah, well, I just noticed that a lot of things that I heard from feminists were just straight up harmful and bad for society as a whole, If you tell women that they're weak and they need empowerment, why do you need empowerment? You need to be empowered. If you're weak, you can't get anywhere on your own.
Yeah.
Right? So that gives women this victim mentality, and that's bad. Because then you are less likely to achieve in life, and when you fail, you will blame your failures on this patriarchal system as opposed to fixing what you did wrong, right? And with promiscuity, it's just even we can argue, let's say some people want to be monogamous, for some people it doesn't work, but I think we can agree that it's not a good thing to present as a good for society. This is not good for society for a whole bunch of people to engage in casual sex and be promiscuous. So I just noticed that they were arguing for those things that were just really bad from all kinds of different perspectives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you believe that we live in a patriarchy?
Well, I believe that we live in a world where men do hold some positions of power and men do accumulate a lot of wealth in society. If you look at like the government, let's say, most people in the government are men, right? And if you look at the list of millionaires or billionaires, most people will be men. So that's true, but I don't think we live in a patriarchy, because patriarchy would mean that like that system is dominated by men, and men like exert this control, and it's like a tyrannical system. And I don't think that's true, because while it's true that men hold a lot of wealth and power, some men, it's a tiny minority of men that do. So many men are homeless on the streets. Most people who are homeless are men. Like most people in jails are men. Like if we look at suicides, like most people who commit suicides are men. So it's like it's a wide distribution, and men are more likely to be on the top, and they're more likely to be on the bottom too. It's like, and then it evens out.
Okay.
Yeah, and women have a lot of power, but in different ways. Like we are the largest voting bloc, right? Because we are the majority, and we are the largest spending bloc, and a bunch of different things. Like we raise children. Like that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. I agree. Having access to raising children is a way to influence society. That is huge, and women are mostly in that position. So I don't see how we would raise children to hate women. This is is an absurd thing. We are the ones raising children. Why are we raising these misogynist children?
Everything is misogynistic.
Like,
whatever we don't like, it's either racist or it's misogynistic, right?
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on traditional gender roles?
Well, I think they're important, because if we look at history as a whole, let's say, I love history, I subscribe to Archaeology magazine. So if we look at history as a whole, whatever geographic location you take, or whatever, time period, we will find those traditional gender roles, right? Like they just developed on their own. It's not like they were enforced on people by some evil system. It's like we go to, South America, we go to Australia, we go to Asia. You find those traditional gender roles. Like men, for the most part, are breadwinners, and women take care of the children. And if it developed like this in all these different places, in all these different time periods, there must be some benefit to it. It must be optimal. It must be important.
Okay.
So
that makes sense to me. I tend to agree. I know many people wouldn't agree again, but I tend to agree that traditional gender roles are present throughout the whole world in many different cultures, similar gender roles, and I think they're there for a reason. Because because they tend to work for many people, not everyone, but for many people. They tend to work for enough people to make it relevant, and nature, in a sense, promotes it because they produce many children, as opposed to other models that simply don't produce enough children to, to have an impact on society. So, like you said, the birth rates are low, but traditional gender roles allow for children to be born, basically. And Okay. So what are your thoughts on MRAs?
So those are men activists, right? Activists for men's rights.
Yeah, men's rights activists, yeah.
Men's rights activists, yeah. Yeah, so those are the activists who fight for men's rights, because nowadays there's a lot of discrimination towards men specifically, because there are a lot of scholarships that are only available to women, all these clubs that are only available to women, because they notice that there are some fields that women are less likely to choose. Like it's not a lot of women in STEM, for example, like in engineering or computer science. So they created specific scholarships to encourage women to go into those fields. And as a result, like men are at a disadvantage. And I think it's wrong. And we have something called the Title IX, which says that you cannot discriminate based on sex. And Title IX was created, I think, in 1972 by President Nixon. I think I'm not sure exactly about the year, but it was created in order to help women succeed in college. And now it's affecting men because now there's discrimination against men. So I think they should really fight for their rights, because the whole reason behind feminism was to create equality between men and women. And in general, that's a great idea. But now, what I see from feminists is that they don't want equality. They want to be better than men. They want to put men down. They want men to have the disadvantages that they had before. And that's just wrong. Like, what have we achieved? We just created another unequal situation, right?
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so what are your thoughts on intersectionality?
Oh, wow, intersectionality. So I have to tell you that I was growing up in Russia, and when I was growing up in Russia, I viewed America and just the West in general as this great place, right? It's the kind of place it's the ultimate dream to move there, to live there, because this is where you have freedom, you have opportunities, and all that. And then I moved to America, and I find all these different people who are constantly complaining about being oppressed. Like, everyone is everyone is miserable, everyone is oppressed. And I'm like, how did this happen? This was so wild to me. So yeah, so just the fact that you have all these different groups, and it's based on biological sex, race, and sexual orientation, and all the different groups are oppressed in their own ways, and where you fall exactly in this interlocking system of oppressions determines whether you are oppressed, or or you have unfair advantage over other people. This I think this is a really bad system, because if we believe in individual freedom, we should focus on people as individuals, and not like which oppression boxes categories do you check here, like you're a woman or whatever, like what's your race, what's your sexual orientation. We should look at people as individuals, not like how many membership cards do they have in each particular oppression category.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on hypergamy?
Well, I think it's just a brutal fact of life. Hypergamy does exist. Women will always date across or up, and men have no problem marrying women who are less than them in socioeconomic status, and that's just a part of life. And unfortunately, for a lot of men, it's just the truth that they need to accept, because that is something that creates competition among men. Like, I read this study that there's this dating apps. You swipe right if you like someone, you swipe left if you don't like someone. So women, on average, they swipe right on 4% of men. 4%.
And this is swiping right is good, is you want it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
They only like 4% of men on those dating apps. Men will swipe right, or they will like 60% of women.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So women are so much more choosy. They're so much more selective when it comes to dating. And it makes sense, because we are programmed to have children, to get pregnant and have children. And we want to choose the man that will be a good provider, will be someone who we can rely on for support, financial support too. So I think it makes sense. And it's just sad for men that it makes it so that they have to compete with each other to get women. So it creates this competition, but it's just a fact of life.
Yeah, I agree. It's just biology. I'm not sure it can be changed. And yes, somehow we have to accept the bad parts of biology. So tell me about your YouTube channel. Like, what are you doing there? Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I noticed that woke culture is going completely out of hand, and it's just totally crazy. between all the different things, it's the BLM and LGBTQ and feminism and transing the kids, is no matter which like perspective you look at it, it's really, really bad. So I started to think that I also want to contribute. Like, I want my voice to be out there. I don't know how many followers I will gain or something, but I wanted to express my conservative view, and I wanted to make, I wanted to have my voice heard. So I started this channel, and I created this character called Amandla. And Amandla is a crazy, woke, radical, feminist, liberal, and she wears blue wig and black lipstick, and she wears a nose ring and the rainbow shirt, and she goes around provoking people. I do a lot of pranks, and I also do a lot of reactions just at home and satire videos. So I pose as this kind of crazy person, and I try to expose the whole craziness of whole culture, basically.
Yeah. So the next question I want to ask, so if you had to sum up your views on feminism, like how would you what would you say to the world about feminism? What are the core things that you feel about feminism?
I think that they achieved a lot of important objectives. I think it was great that they got women the right to vote. It was great that women now have an opportunity to go to college. But I think they should focus on justice and not necessarily on full equality, because men and women are not the same, and you are not going to achieve full equality of outcome. So instead of focusing on equality of outcome, just focus on equality of opportunity. So, like, men and women should have equal opportunities, but let them make their choices. Like, don't insult women for, let's say, choosing to be a trad wife, or like what they call a housewife, right?
Yeah.
Just respect women for making the choices that they want. Like, don't insult traditional gender roles. Like, if some people want to do it, then fine. So, and just, I think feminists should stop lying to women.
Yeah.
They lie to women, and they should just update whatever science they're using, or whatever, I don't know what info they're using, but they're really lying to women big time, and people should stop doing that.
Yeah. They're lying to women. This myth that they want choice for women, they don't want choice for women. They lie to everyone, saying that they are for equality. They're not for equality. They're for the subjugation of men. They just dislike men, and they don't want women to depend on them. And I can't even understand what, to be honest, I don't even know what feminists want or where they're coming from or what is the logic, because I can't see how anyone benefits from the crazy that feminists talk. I don't see that women benefit. I don't see that men benefit. I don't know who benefits.
Well, they benefit. They enjoy feeling, progressive and righteous, and it's virtue signaling, a lot of it.
Yeah, and they're inconsiderate of women. There's so many women who are conservative and enjoy conservative lifestyles and so on, and they completely ignore these women. Yeah.
Yeah, so just respect everyone. If you're pro-choice, just be pro-choice. All this rhetoric. Oh, we want equality for everyone. We want women to achieve their dreams. Okay, fine. So, like, for example, studies show that most women by the age of 30 will prioritize their families rather than work. But they tell all women the most important thing that you will ever have in your life is work and career. But it's simply not true. Like, look at every single study. They will tell you that for most women, by the age of 30 or beyond that, family is more important. So a lot of women end up focusing on their career, and by the time they want to have kids, it's too late. So, like, I know some people that are very miserable now, like women who are struggling with fertility problems because they were told that you need to succeed in this patriarchal society, you need to go have your career, and now they're like in their late 30s trying to have children, and it's tough.
I can imagine. Okay, well, thanks for interviewing.